All right, my friends, welcome back to another episode of the Build Show. We got a webinar for you today, and we are going to get nerdy. We're going to be talking about extreme panel technologies today, and I'm going to be honest from you right from the start. We are hoping to sell you as the audience on why you might want to become an extreme panel builder. Not just build a house of them one time, which of course you're going to learn something if that's the case for you. But we're hoping that builders are watching this, especially like these two builders in the end that I'm going to introduce in a second, who have signed on to say, I really want to build extreme panel. And since they've signed on, they have built a lot of extreme panel houses. So with that being said, let me introduce who I've got with me in the studio today. First off, Eric Couts. Did I pronounce that correctly,
yes,
Eric?
You did.
Eric's company name is Premier Homes in Northwest Missouri. Eric is a general contractor, but he also sets panels for other builders, and he does a lot of training and assistance for extreme panels. So he owns his own company. He is a builder, a general contractor, but he's also going out to job sites and setting panels for other builders. Now, you guys have seen this handsome gentleman with me before, Perry Penske. Perry, good to see you.
Good to see you, man.
He is the sales manager for Extreme Panel. And where are you guys based again, Perry? You're in Minnesota.
Cottonwood, Minnesota.
Cottonwood.
Yep, little town, 1,200 people.
Where in Minnesota is that exactly?
It's the southwest corner of Minnesota, basically.
Southwest corner. Okay,
Yep.
gotcha.
Yep.
So Perry's kind of representing Extreme Panel here today. And then last but not least, all the way from Hot Springs, South Dakota, Todd Erskin. Todd, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
For sure. So Todd, your company is Erskin Construction. You and Eric are really similar. You guys are both general contractors. You have a couple of people that work for you that are actually carpenters, for lack of a better term, but are often setting panels, which is a mix of carpentry and a little bit of assembly as well. Really kind of a big erector set on the job site in a lot of ways when we do an extreme panel. So let me give you the lay of the land for what we're going to do today. Also want to make a mention for anybody who's watching this live. We're not monitoring chat. If you've got a question for us, drop it on the Q&A tab. I've got my phone open here, and I'll see those questions coming in. We might actually answer a couple of them as we're going, if it makes sense. But we're going to leave some time at the end, probably the last 10, 15 minutes-ish, to really get into your Q&A. But we've got kind of a part A and a part B for what we're doing today. I thought it would take a few minutes, and I've asked Perry to put together kind of a SIPS 101. Maybe you've seen our videos, maybe you saw these guys at Build Show Live, or maybe this is your very first time finding out about structural insulated panels and what Extreme Panel does to manufacture those. So I wanted Perry to take a few minutes and run us through kind of a 101. When he's done with that, though, we're going to then switch gears, and I'm going to mostly spend time with Eric and Todd and say, what's your experience been? What do you guys do for a living? Each one of them are going to kind of give us a little bit of a background on their company history, where they've been as a builder, and how long it's been kind of since they signed on to Extreme Panel. What's it like working with them? Again, with the idea being, my goal on this, the goal for Extreme Panel here, is for you to say, I really want to learn more. And speaking of which, if you're watching this later, in the description below, we'll have a link for you to click on. It's basically extremepanel.com. And if you're watching it live, you can see it. I actually put it in the chat feature, even though I'm telling you not to use the chat feature. extremepanel.com/extreme-builders. That's your landing page for a builder who's interested in learning more. There'll be a contact form there too, so you can say, hey guys, give me a call. And someone from Extreme Panel, probably either Perry himself or Eric on your team, maybe.
Yep. Josh.
Or Josh, rather.
And Adam and Russell.
We'll maybe call you right after that and give you the information that you need about really more info on this program. With that being said, Perry, why don't you take over with kind of SIPS 101 for us?
Sure. Well, what's a SIP? Structural Insulated Panel. That's what Extreme Panel is based off of. And we've been doing this for 33 years, and our basis of a SIP is simply the OSB, oriented strand board, laminated to foam. And as you can see behind us, we've got a section.
Put a Vanna White here while you're
talking.
talking.
We've got our normal wall panel, which this is a 6.5-inch wall panel, which is an R26.
So what you're seeing here is, I'm sorry to interrupt,
Yes.
this is the actual insulation.
Correct.
He's talking about oriented strand board on both sides, and we're
Correct.
going to talk about what kind of that is. That's a special type for you guys. And then you're also going to notice there is some framing embedded in these panels, but the panel itself might go a long, long ways between framing, correct?
Correct. Our normal framing factor will be 3 to 5% of a build in comparison to 25 to 35% of a build.
That's amazing.
So a lot more insulation, and that's the basis. We're using expanded polystyrene as our core, and whatever the thickness of that core, the stronger we get, the thicker we go with the panel. So it just depends. Our strength is awesome, and panels themselves, they're 2.5 times stronger than a conventional framed wall.
Holy cow.
So, but building them in big pieces, which Extreme, we're really good at that. 8 by 24 jumbo panels, and the makeup of it is literally the glue, as you can see between here. Some panels they inject foam. This is not. This is a block of foam, and we have a glue line. So when we're making an 8 by 24 panel, we've actually got 14 pounds of glue holding that panel together.
Holy cow.
And it's done under pressure, and it's done under perfect conditions.
Right.
And it's really great. And as you can see, we've got the electrical chases. You can see the holes in there. You can see holes here. We have outlet and switch chases in that panel.
Shine my light into that one right here. So it's going to be a little hard to see, but see how my light is coming through here? This is an electrical chase that allows you to go up or down. And then not shown here in the panel, what I've seen on the job site is you guys are marking that.
We're marking those chases, so you know exactly where they are.
That's cool.
And like here, what we're showing you is a truss detail. So if we were to put a roof truss on there, you have a double top plate for that truss to sit on. But if we do a paneled roof, we are bevel cutting that panel at the pitch of the roof, so it's all continuous and it's seamless.
Would you actually pull that panel off real quick?
Sure.
Since you dropped it in, I think it's kind of cool to show guys. So in other words, this is already attached, or we're attaching that in the field?
This would be put in the wall first. We just simply did it for a demonstration purpose.
So this is in the wall already.
And then we have a long screw that comes through and attaches to this. Plus we're putting beads of sealant here to stop air migrating.
And that is a giant piece of EPS. What's the R value
This is
on
an
that
R,
panel?
we call it a 49. That's what we're using in Minnesota all the time for the northern climates. But without having those members, our insulation value, because it's continuous everywhere, it actually it goes up. And the way the building performs, the performance of the building is just greater because we don't have the thermal loss everywhere.
Yeah, if you look at this wall in my studio here, a lot of builders would call that an R19 wall if there's an R19 bat in there. But the fact that you can see all those studs, and this is a 20% framing factor, let's say, this is not an R19 wall.
Right.
Whereas when you guys have a panel, we have very long distances without studs and massive amounts of insulation, so you have a much higher overall effective R value, correct?
We try to do the whole roof without lumber in it, if that's at all possible.
Yep.
In the case, we try to put more structure under a roof than actually within the roof.
Makes sense.
So, yeah. So, SIPs have been around, Matt, a long time. We love this picture. We found this. We believe this was in Wisconsin, probably in the 1930s or 40s. They were cardboard cores with plywood skins, and that's really the stress skin panel. That's where it really evolved. Was in Wisconsin, UW Madison.
Is that
really
right?
where it was.
That's pretty awesome.
So they were mainly 4x8 panels. They were all cut by hand, but the insulation wasn't back then. It wasn't Dow. It wasn't styrofoam. So it's great that we are 100 years old in terms of construction.
That's pretty cool.
I love this is a Sam Rashkin. From 1877 to 2024, we really haven't changed a whole lot, have we?
It does bother me that our industry is very slow to change.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. It's a tough one. Why consider SIPs? And you're going to hear some really good reasons today with Todd and Eric here. But the strength, it's huge. We can compare our 6-inch wall to like a 2x10 for strength wise. It's really, and no one builds with 2x10s. It's really the most energy efficient building method out there. That's a system. And, we are code compliant. We've got all of our code listings and everything that's needed for code. Our walls are true and straight. And that's what builders are going to notice the first time they do a building, that, wow,
Super
this
flat.
thing it's square, it's true. The top of the wall is the same. It's awesome.
That's awesome.
That's when you're sheetrocking and trimming and all that is when you're really going to notice a big difference. Just during construction, you don't need a lot of bracing. Yes, you need bracing. We can't tell you don't need it, but we've seen buildings go up without bracing, and they've went through 90 mile an hour winds, and they're fine.
Holy cow.
It's crazy. The shear of these buildings is incredible.
Wow.
And because we're gluing it as we're putting it together, you're literally not just setting a panel and the fasteners are holding it. The SIP seal that we use is a structural adhesive, and it's amazing. So that's not in our numbers. It's not in our calculations, but it's an added benefit. It's air sealing, but it's also helping with our structure.
And as a side note, we're actually, after this webinar, hopping on a plane to shoot a video together while I had Perry down here in the south on the coast of Mississippi, a house that is an extreme panel house that's already gone through 2 hurricanes and is doing great. And the homeowner has seen some serious savings on their homeowner's insurance compared to some of their neighbors that have had to rebuild over various hurricanes. So there's a lot to be said about the word structural in the structural insulated panel.
Right. I love the term environmentally friendly here because everybody sees waste on a job site. And with our system, guys, what do we have for waste on a job site? You're talking a garbage bag a day. That's about it. Yeah. It's crazy. So we're not putting things in the landfill. And it's amazing what this system can do. Every piece gets used. When the job's up, pieces are gone.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and indoor air quality. When we have a wall that isn't allowing things to flow through it, we are protecting our indoor air. And it's a huge factor in today's world. It's a big deal. So always bringing in fresh air. We're so tight. We need to do that. That's just a given.
Let me pause you for one sec
Sure.
to say, I think that's one of the things that's really hit me about Extreme Panel and your technology, with SIPs in general, but yours in specific, is that this is a really straightforward way to get a very well insulated, very airtight house. And, I've done a lot of stick builds. I've only done one SIPs house in my career. I've done an ICF house. This is a really built-in way to get high performance. That if you stick to the plan, it's like a guaranteed result. Whereas when it comes to stick framing, you've seen my videos, there's a lot that we need to do to get that result of a very airtight building. And it's built-in performance, which I really like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love this slide because it shows the automation of, yes, there's panelized walls, there's trusses, there's everything. But here we're showing an actual system all enclosed, just like a cooler when you're shutting that lid. Mm-hmm. And we have the structural included in that lid. So I love that slide just for that reason. We're building this on paper, just like everyone else does, but we're taking a lot more care and making sure all the details are right. And I really love that slide. Awesome. The speed is huge. We have found in the jobs that we've been to in Alabama, where literally having houses right next to each other, where they are able to do 2 of our SIP homes in the time they can do 1 stick-framed house.
He's pretty amazing.
So with the same crew, the same weather, everything. So it's the time of construction is getting knocked way down, which is just phenomenal. The panel company differences, Extreme Panel, I feel we're one of the top companies in the industry. We've been doing this for 33 years. There are companies out there that just do blank panels. You cut them on site, and that's out there. We used to send a lot of blank panels out. Now that's like 1% of our business, if that. There are projects that you could just have panels come pre-cut, and you could supply all the miscellaneous material. But our normal package is what we call a ready to assemble, where everything is pre-made. All the headers are actually pre-made, pre-cut. They're insulated. The king and cripple studs are pre-made and labeled, and if that header is number 11, you've got 2 pieces labeled number 11 that are supporting it. And that is what Extreme has really become really good at.
Yeah, that's huge.
We just got a word from a customer this week that they used our package for the first time instead of other companies, and they were really happy of the package, how full it was. Everything's trimmed. It's a different package than what's normally out there.
That's awesome.
And we try to be all inclusive where every piece is coming. And
I think that's a theme that you're going to see us talking about a lot, and I suspect that both Todd and Eric are going to mention too how Extreme Panel is a different company than a lot of manufacturers out there.
Yes, right. And just so you guys are aware, we do have site-specific engineering, but we also have all of our code data that we need to basically build anywhere in the U.S. We literally have our Florida high velocity testing. It's literally getting stamped and signed on this week. So we're really excited about that for Miami-Dade and everything down there. So
very cool.
It's really neat. So you can be rest assured that we have the people behind us to get your job done.
Yeah.
The Extreme process. I mean, we really like having this laid out for our customers so they know what's happening. And what Extreme is really trying to do is help builders with what are their issues on site. What makes their projects not go well. Mm-hmm. And I just heard from a builder that we're hopefully doing our first project with him here soon. And he just said, it seems like all these companies just want to sell their material and they want to walk away, and the builders got to do it. They got to, I have to deal with the problems. And he's like, I really want service. And I said, we are that company. We can give you that service. We have a whole group of project coordinators, a whole group of drafters. Our team is really doing a good job at getting the details and putting it all together. Our sales staff, I'm so proud of my guys. They're just amazing. And our process is very well laid out. It's basically 9 steps. And, we go through everything in detail, a full set of shop drawings that you're going to get, no matter if your project's an ADU, a garage, a huge shop, or a mansion. Mm. We go through the same process for every single job.
That's awesome.
We're asking the same questions if it's a dog house or if it's a 10,000 square foot house. So everything gets the same treatment. And it's really quite amazing. And it just takes care of everything on paper before the issues arise. So our coordinators are asking all the right questions because we want it right the first time. So they do a really good job, and I'm very happy of our process. And you can review this on our website. It's all on there, and it makes it simple for you, the customer. And I mean, we're seeing drawings, the basic drawings. We just saw one out in your office, Matt. We see the higher end home as kind of our basis. That's our niche market. But we see napkins. We literally see it. We see people that want a 30 by 40 garage or a 50 by 80. I mean, we see it all the time.
That's awesome.
And we can help people guide them through the whole system.
And you guys have an engineer that you can get for your designs, right? So you don't have to have an engineered set of plans ahead of time.
And typically what's happening is somebody's bringing us a set of plans, but we need to go through and kind of value design. Mm-hmm. What works with our panels? Maybe a certain roof system isn't going to be what they're going to want to work on. So we can just do walls, or we can just do a roof. We can do certain parts of projects. But it literally depends on what the job is. And we'll go through every plan up front and try to figure out, what do we want to do? How do we want to do it? And right here we're showing that job, the actual panel drawings of that project. You get a 3D view of those drawings, and then depending on the job, this job probably had 15 or 20 pages of drawings. So of all just panel layout structural drawings.
That's great.
So it is really good. It's very advanced, and every detail is there. And a lot of it's for the manufacturing of it, but it also helps out the builders. Mm-hmm. So all those little details that go into it really make a big difference. So our panels, the main basis of Extreme is an 8x24 jumbo panel.
So let me
Yes,
pause you for
sure.
a second there. Meaning, when we see 4x8 sheets on the job site of OSB, that's not what these are being built from. They're getting a direct shipment from the manufacturer of 8 foot wide by 24 foot long in one sheet, as if it was one, jolly green giant sheet of plywood, right? This is a massive sheet.
It's a massive sheet. And we actually get them larger than that 8x24 because when we press it together, we can press that together in 4.5 minutes, okay, which is wonderful with one guy running a computer.
Wow.
It's an amazing machine,
That's
and
pretty wild.
we want you to come and see it. We
I would
want
like
you
to
to
see
come
that.
and
That
see
would be
it. Yeah.
cool.
And it's Terry Deacon, our founder of Extreme. It was in his head for years. He couldn't wait to get this thing made. And it's literally been the best machine because it's one person making 192 square feet in 4.5 minutes.
Oh my gosh. That's
So it's
wild.
really, really cool. And that 8x24 panel, we will cut it. It'll get cut perfectly according to the panel drawings. And then they're sent out with zinc borate treated skins. So Extreme, we don't give people options of the board. That's the only option we have.
So your OSB is already zinc borate treated?
It has zinc borate.
Wow.
We call it Structure Shield. It's in here.
That's cool.
It'll
You
be
can't buy
coming
that
up here.
off the shelf.
No, you can't buy it off the shelf. And that allows us to really sell panels all over the U.S. because it's termite and bug resistant. Then we put borate in the foam. A lot of companies they don't do that.
Foam too? I don't know if I
There's
realized
borate
that.
and
That's
flame
awesome.
retardant in the foam. So all those little things that it's
So the
just a
termites are not
standard
going to
for
want to
us.
eat through it,
No,
basically.
they won't. So it's awesome.
That is cool.
Yeah.
I'm not sure I knew that.
Yeah. So, and here it shows our CNC machine. Within that machine, we have a 38, that's a 38-inch skill saw right there that can rotate on a 5-axis pivot head, a chainsaw that can plunge cut and do bevels, do whatever we need it to do, and a router that there it's making a picket fence. It's actually for an animation that we did. So it's pretty cool. This is talking about the structure shield, the OSB. It's those natural elements that are in the board to take care of the termites. And then really the zinc is about a preservative. So it's really good stuff. The structural advantages of our panels, it's literally 2.5 times stronger. The walls are straight every time, like I said before. Tall walls are really cool to build with panels, right?
And pretty
Because
straightforward,
they're
too,
pretty
right?
straightforward, and it just leads into more of those big buildings. A lot of people, we do huge structures a lot.
I bet.
50 by 80, 80 by 120. It just depends on what the need is, and we can make them very, very effective.
That's cool.
And people will ask about a 50 by, say, just a pole shed. Well, our buildings can be put up in a day or two, and literally then you could put regular trusses on it, but have an insulated wall that's 16, 20 feet tall.
And ready to go.
And literally we're 8 foot by 16 or 20 foot. Those pieces, you got 25 pieces to a building.
It's awesome.
It's insane, and they go up really, really fast.
I bet.
So
That's awesome.
all different types of buildings, from commercial, multifamily, our niche, the custom residential, and boy, we've done some amazing projects in the last 33 years. It's been a lot of fun to do. Here's a project that Eric personally. I gave Eric a call and said, Eric, we have a job in Biloxi, Mississippi, and Eric's from Maryville, Missouri. So he brought his crew down there, and you were down there for how long, Eric?
6 days.
6 days. Keep in mind, this building is 14 feet off the ground, so everything was
Pretty
elevated.
Yeah,
Pretty high.
You didn't use an 8-foot ladder for anything on that job.
Yeah.
Not.
But this has been really a fun project. We'll meet him tomorrow. We'll be at that doing a video there tomorrow.
Talk to us real quick about hurricane resistance, and actually a question, by the way. Good job on the questions, y'all. We're getting question after question. A lot of people want to ask us some stuff.
Good.
I'm going to throw these two in there while we're thinking about this. Talk to us about hurricane resistance and maybe even fire resistance.
So, the biggest thing with our panels, you can see in this slide right here, we actually did 80% of the interior walls. Well, the homeowner wanted that, and we're like, we can do that, but it actually helped us in shear, because panels are so good at shear. And that, what I mean by that is just the lateral load, the winds, and the racking of the building. Because we're 2 sheets of sheathing and foam, the whole panel's in essence a shear wall.
Right.
So it really helps. And then here in this job, we have hold downs. We have plenty of hardware in this thing. The panel screws that were put in that particular job, because we're designing for hurricane force winds. We had 5 inches on center in that some
5
cases.
inches on center in some spots,
So-
all the way around the perimeter of that roof.
And then a double top plate at the top of the wall, just to give more beef to go into.
Wow,
So-
that's awesome.
And then, I mean, from fire standpoint, of course, with everything going on in LA, we actually had calls that week.
Is that right?
From people in
Wow.
the neighborhoods saying, hey,
I want to
we're
rebuild.
looking at this as a potential something, how can we utilize this?
Yeah.
And I mean, you still have to put sheetrock on to get
Right.
our fire ratings.
Right.
You can add sheetrock to it. You know, you're putting hardy panel on or cementitious siding, metal on the roof. But the beauty of our project, of our panels in fire, is that we don't have a vented attic.
Yeah.
So we're not
there's-
sucking those embers up into that attic.
That's a great point. Is that
Yes.
you're built in with a conditioned attic with this system.
Correct.
Assuming it's all SIPs, you don't mess it up and get SIPs walls on a truss roof.
Right.
With stick framing on the roof. This is ready to go with no vents. And one of the big issues on fire that happened in those LA fires is those embers are being sucked into vents in the roof assembly and they catch on fire. I don't know if you saw my video on that, but I have a neighbor whose house burned down in my neighborhood from an ember off a chimenea furnace in their backyard. They went to bed, ember came up off the chimney, sucked into their standard vented attic, lit the attic on fire. Thank God mom and dad got out, and the kids. Whole house was 100% lost.
Right.
That's the beauty of the system. It's built in to have a non-venting. And I would add on by saying, you're normally going to obviously add sheetrock on the inside. So on this system, my preference would be probably add another layer of 5/8 on the outside.
Sure.
And now I've got for sure a 1 hour rated assembly. And now you've got a fiber cement exterior, let's say.
Right.
And boom, you've got a house that's going to withstand the worst of
Eric
of those
actually
fires.
lived through a burn.
Is that
And
right?
Talk.
The house
What happened, Eric?
the house I live in, I had actually sold the panels for originally. That house had a unexpected fire for some reason
Inside or outside?
inside.
Inside, okay.
Completely gutted the house. It had SIP panel walls and truss roof. When it burned, the fire department got there. They couldn't figure out what was going on because they're cutting through the wall and it's snowing, which was the foam. But when it was all extinguished, had you been able to get the smoke smell out of it and replace the wooden structure? I mean, the panels themselves were ultimately undamaged because of the sheetrock on the inside of the walls.
Right.
But the windows were melted out of the house. The trusses were all in the basement. So, but it's a really good thing to know. I mean, now I purchased that house and rebuilt it on that foundation, and it is amazing to me how the sheetrock kept the heat away from the foam. I mean, the only part of the entire house that the panels were damaged was where the fire department cut a hole in it.
Wow, that's awesome. Impressive.
That is cool.
It doesn't have that. It doesn't have that cavity in between the studs for the chimney effect to take effect
Right. For
during a fire.
to come
So
through.
so when we're putting fire blocking in, tall walls inside a house, you don't have any of that need in a panel wall because that panel is solid,
Yep.
and so there's no chimney effect of that fire spreading. It really, I've seen evidence of the longevity of a house because it was a SIP home versus a stick built home, in how long it will burn, or it'll take to burn the structure.
Yeah.
Once the fire is pulled away from the foams won't burn. It'll stop immediately.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love this picture that we're looking at right now because you're seeing the full panel overhang, which it's just, people would say, well, I don't need that insulated, but it's adding the structure. It's sitting out there. It's simple. The time frame of putting it up is just ultimately
Super
it's
fast.
super fast.
Yeah.
And you're not having to frame an overhang onto it, which that can be done too. But it's just one of those things. I love the look of that. And Eric had his drone there while we were shooting this, so it was really fantastic.
Is that the Mississippi House?
This is still the
Oh, cool.
Mississippi House, and then he actually put this whole porch together, which was what, 32 feet long or
32.
36 feet long.
It's 30. It was over 30 feet, and we set it all in one piece.
10,
Holy cow.
I think it was 10 or 11 feet out.
Dang.
But
It
yeah,
covered the whole deck that they were going to put underneath it, and we put all that together on the ground and picked it up in one piece and slid it into the house.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
Super fast.
really, really cool.
Yeah, that's neat.
So just beautiful pictures of that at night.
And down there
Literally.
with that panel over the porch, I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be panels, but they wanted to spend time out there. Well, with the hot sun right on the coast, underneath that is not hot. I mean, it protects you from that, sunlight, heat radiating down on you through, something else.
That's fabulous.
This building here was actually a brewery up in Blaine, Minnesota, the metro, Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area, called Invictus Brewery, and they love this building also, and it's created in that climate up there. We've had other people wanting to build because they've been to this brewery, so it's been really a fun project. But here you can see we're utilizing what we call a starwood rafter, and this rafter is kind of cut off, but it's like a TGI, like an I-joist,
Okay.
but it's like a boomerang look.
Huh.
And they make them in Wisconsin, the Starwood rafters, and we utilize them all the time. They're up to 72 feet wide, and we can do 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot on center. But then our panels go over the top, so you have this unique looking truss on the inside with our panels over the top, and you get to see that truss all the time.
And what's that bearing on the two ends? Is there a post in there?
We
or is
have
there-
a column within our wall.
Okay, within
and
the
then
wall.
then it's pocketed in our wall. So that pocket is all pre-made, and that truss sits down inside
that's
of
cool.
our panel.
I
So
like that.
that's a standard, and we do it all the time.
And what's the span on that building now?
That one I don't remember, but I want to say it was
big.
like 80 some feet wide, which is why that Starwood only makes up to a 72 foot wide. So that's why we ended up splitting it, because they were wider than the 72.
That's cool.
It is cool. That's inside there. Yep, the Tipsy Steer. If you're ever up in Blaine, Minnesota,
The Tipsy
and
Steer.
Invictus Brewery. It's in there.
That's a great name.
And I mean, this is a hotel in the metro area of Minneapolis. Looks really good, and yeah, we are really here to showcase these two guys.
I love it.
They're amazing people. We're so excited from Extreme standpoint to have the group of guys that have always been our core of dealers. And Eric and Todd are part of that. And we actually just lost two of our dealers that we've had for a long, long time this last year. And they're so important. One actually wrote a book of structural insulated panels, and he was a customer of ours for
Wow.
20 some years. So there's a huge history with what we have going on here, and we're all about continuing that and growing the Extreme dealer network.
Love it. With that being said, let's jump over to you, Todd. You gave us a little
Eric.
PowerPoint. I just called you Todd. I'm sorry. Sorry, Eric. I got my notes mixed up on you too, and for some reason I keep calling you the wrong name. All right, so Eric, give us the history of Premier Homes, and ideally we're hoping to find out, like, when did you find out about SIPs in general, Extreme Panel specifically, and what's been the benefit for you for kind of partnering with these guys? But just full disclosure here, he doesn't get paid by Extreme Panel. He's getting paid by his customers, by people that he's maybe assembling SIPs panels for. So he may have an Extreme Panel logo on, but he's not an employee like Perry is.
I started out in high school actually doing welding and tried to figure out how things work and whatever. And when I got out of high school, I worked for the Boy Scouts and did construction with them and worked with some friends doing construction. And I actually went to work for the Boy Scouts for a while and was one of their property managers in charge of their construction and those things. And when I quit working for the Boy Scouts, I went back to work for the family business at a printing company. And I did some houses and construction on the side. And a buddy of mine decided we were going to build a spec house. And my uncle is a realtor, and someone brought some information on SIP panels to him at a realtors meeting, and we were getting ready to do this house. And he says, "I don't know what this is, but I think it would be neat to try." So we got into it and looked at several, companies that did SIP panels. Didn't really know what we were getting into, and decided there was a lot of people that wanted to sell you panels. There was only 2 or 3 at the time that had any engineering or any background to it. It was, we'll ship you panels, which scared me. So I went with a different company at the time other than Extreme because they were close to me. That company, since their distributor closed, and I followed a salesman to a different company. And during that time, I was at some home shows, and I actually met Perry at one of those home shows in Topeka, Kansas. And the door was always open there, and he and I would bounce stuff off one another once in a while. Even though we were competitors, we were in the SIP panel industry and wanted to learn.
That's awesome.
And it was really cool that when the time came that I quality was what I thought was suffering, and I reached out to Perry, and I switched to Extreme, and I've never looked back. Because
how many years has that been now?
That was in 2005.
Okay.
That I actually,
so 20 years ago now.
Mm-hmm.
Holy cow! And you started with Extreme Panel right before that, right?
2000. Yep.
That's
so
awesome.
25 years ago.
So we, got to know one another, and I did some projects, all over, basically for myself at that time, and coming on board with Extreme, did my own house, which was actually, the house that had the fire that I bought back because I'd sold some panels to some other people and helped, along the way, because I, kind of had, got the bug that I thought panels was the way to go, and I, back and forth, but ultimately I figured out that, I think panels is the way to go. It's easier, quicker. But things are slow to change, so it's just been an ongoing struggle to try to figure out how that goes. So through the years we have done several projects. I did those spec houses for myself, did some garages for some people, did whatever, and when I came on board with Extreme, that changed because they had me step outside of my comfort zone a little bit. And probably the biggest house that we did at the time was around 2019. We did a big house in Weston, Missouri, and it was a 10,000 square foot home. And the homeowners actually met the Extreme people at the home show in Minneapolis. And they're talking to him, and they're like, well, we have a builder down there. Maybe we can get him to do it. And happened to be the people that they were talking to was a guy that I was in Boy Scouts with. So, I stepped out of my, box and said, well, yeah, we'll do it. And they kept saying, yeah, you're going to do roof panels. You're going to do, everything. And we did foundation panels, roof panels. I mean, we went in, with both feet. And the biggest thing I remember that is I kept trying to figure out this roof, and they kept saying, well, you just have to start in the right spot. I asked several times, where's that spot? Well, they brought on another guy like myself who had done roof panels to help me. And I think that's kind of why we're here today is it's a family thing that we all help one another. Todd and I compete, but yet we don't compete. We help one another. We all talk to one another regularly, and without that extra push, to get outside of our comfort zone, because I think change is hard in this industry.
For sure.
There's a lot of things that I've never seen it before, so I'm not going to do it. And I think had I not had it introduced to me when I first started doing spec houses to say, well, I'd try one, because at that time I was like, well, the worst I can do is say I won't do another one.
Yeah.
I haven't looked back. I mean, we've actually stick framed, one house since we started in 2005. And that was because the homeowner wanted to do panels. His electrician convinced him otherwise. That window was open and I didn't have anything else scheduled, so we did it. The week after we finished that house, we did a habitat house out of panels, and that homeowner came by and said, I wish I'd have done my house out of panels. So it's been really eye-opening to the people that are around it when you do it, to be able to see what we're doing. This is actually a picture of my house after with the fire that we rebuilt. But we've since got into a lot of training and education, and that's what I think is great with Extreme is when we go do their what they call their summit, which is their training. It's not talking about panels. It's about talking about all the other things that we need to know to build out of panels. You know, how to air seal, how, you know, the heating and cooling equipment, all the things that
How often are you guys doing that summit?
typically we try to do it once a year.
We've done several. We've done them at the farm at P. Allen Smith Farm, Moss Mountain Farm. But we're gonna have one in January 6th to the 8th.
Fabulous.
And I mean, so really, our goal is to, you know, come to the build show in October, and then we want builders to come up, see the factory, and actually put together a building at the factory.
I want to change the verbiage for your website. I think we want to talk. I've heard both these guys say, and you say this, and I haven't seen it on your website, but I think you want. What we're asking is for builders to join the family, right? I mean, I've heard these guys say that verbiage multiple times.
Yeah.
This is what we're talking about here for builders. I'm talking specifically to builders watching this. Is these guys have built their whole business around Extreme Panel. They've realized that the level of service from Extreme Panel, the level of precision, the great people over there have been a great partner with their business. So Eric's Premier Homes, which is in Missouri, which is very far from Minnesota, has said, look, everything we build, we're gonna build it together with Extreme Panel. He feels like he's part of the family such that he's wearing a hat and a shirt today. And kudos for wearing your logo on top for the Erskin Construction. But Todd feels the same way. Amen. That you guys really feel like, hey, I'm part of this family that gets together on a regular basis, that supports me. And it's interesting that the family goes both ways. These guys bring you projects, but when you get a call that's anywhere near where these guys are, or, you know, I'm 2 states away, but I need help building it, my builder's framer has no idea what he's doing, then you're calling these guys and saying, hey, would you travel over to assemble that job?
Yeah.
It's pretty fascinating. This word family keeps getting thrown out. I really like it.
I do too.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's
You're
great.
fine.
Amen.
But yeah, Perry, you know, and the clan up at Extreme has got me into several projects that, you know, I sometimes, you know, think of them as their pet projects. But, you know, been to Ridgeland, Mississippi. We did a EMS building there, 11,000 square foot building that we put up in 11 days, you know, with 6 guys.
Holy cow.
The average age of being 54
Yeah.
was, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a young crew.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I appreciate that.
they were.
Thank you.
Did the one that we're going to go look at tomorrow in Pass Christian, Mississippi. You know, there's just always something out there. I was looking at one this morning that's in Florida, you know, but we can travel and go do those in a short period of time and do the framing and get it enclosed, dried in, and, you know, help out the people that want, you know, that type of structure that we're doing, and get, you know, them on their feet. And, you know, I've also been to, I came to Austin the same week as Build Show Live and did some training with another crew here to get them started with panels. And, you know, that's part of, you know, what I think is, you know, great is the education side of it too. The more of us that are using it and understanding it and, you know, helping other people get started is, you know, part of it, I think.
Yeah. Good stuff, Eric. Should we jump over to you, Todd?
Sounds great.
Todd Erskin, Erskin Construction, Hot Springs, South Dakota. Did I say it right?
That's it. So I guess I was introduced to panels about 21 years ago. I was design building my own personal home at the time, and the timber framer that I was working with suggested that I go up and tour Extreme Panel, and we did, and I was very hopeful that I was going to be able to utilize them. I wasn't sure because of budget constraints, and I was really interested with, of course, the energy efficiency of the structural insulated panels that I was kind of aware of. I didn't know exactly how energy efficient it was, but I was also interested about panels because I really liked the idea of how fast it went up. I knew that I was going to be building my own personal house on my own time, after hours, on weekends, and I needed something to go up very quickly, be enclosed very quickly, so that I could do that and not be paying my crew. So we did. We were able to get it in the budget, actually perfectly fit in our budget, and we got that house built. We moved into it, still living in it today, 21 years later. And after the first year of living in that house, I couldn't in good conscience go back to stick building for my clients. After paying the utility bills for that new house, after experiencing the comfort level of that house, I knew that that's the way that I wanted to build. And then I also, even 20 years ago in my 30s, I was thinking about, if I build with panels, I will be able to build more than if I don't in my lifetime. And that has come true over and over and over again.
That's fascinating, Todd. I like that.
I love it.
By the way, I think your quote about "in good conscience, I couldn't stick frame anymore," that's going to go on the Extreme Panel website next week, FYI.
Love it.
Behind the scenes, someone's writing that down
Right.
right now.
Right. So I believed in panels. I knew how they performed, but I wasn't a great salesman at them yet. Thankfully, I didn't have to. Perry, Josh, all the guys at Extreme
Did it for you.
were selling. They were giving me or introducing me to clients and saying, "Hey, we've got a builder out here in Black Hills of South Dakota. Would you, he could go ahead and build that for you." And I did projects for, I think it was 4 projects for 2 different general contractors. And after I completed those 4 projects, I had the confidence to communicate clearly to my clients about the benefits of SIPs. And I haven't stick built since 2005.
Wow.
It's only been structural
You
insulated
guys are
panels.
both in the same boat.
Yeah.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah.
That really says a
And
lot.
And
They've drank the Kool-Aid, as
Right.
they say.
we're doing we're doing 2 full builds a year now. And I do panel sets in amongst that as well as needed or as we can. I'm a custom home builder, so I used to be a design builder. At this point in my career, I've kind of taken that hat off and have turned it over to the architects and the designers, because I just enjoy putting panels up, and it allows me to have more time to go out and put panels up. We had the privilege of going over to Jackson Hole, Wyoming last summer, or the summer before last, I should say, and put a panel roof on a big log home over there, which was a
Cool.
lot of fun.
I bet.
And we're traveling up to, hopefully traveling up to Montana to do a panel house for a repeat client, a client that I built a house for 8 years ago, and they've now moved on to Montana and want me to come build one up there. And so continually staying busy with panels. The biggest thing is knowing that if you have an issue, you have somebody to call. They care, first of all, that there's an issue, and they help solve the problem. And sometimes it's not an issue with panels, it's just an issue in general with building. And I'll call Eric, or I'll call other builders from Extreme that I know, that I've met over the years at the training that they do, and we can bounce ideas off each other. I'm always trying to strive for the tightest home that I can build, and I've won awards from Extreme Panel for building the tightest residential home. I think
What was
probably,
the tightest, Todd? What's your tightest?
well, right now it on record is 0.2 ACH 50.
Fabulous.
And I have one coming up that has been tested pre-drywall that is beating that.
How about that?
And
Way to go, Todd.
I want to put it on record that house was completely built by my lead guy and his crew. He has been with me for 8 years now, and he took on his first project solely, and and I went and tested it pre-drywall, and it's tight.
It's going to beat your record.
It's going to beat my record.
We
will have
proud
it.
papa.
We will have it third party tested and put it in some competitions because it's really nice.
That's fabulous.
It's a big house, so it's a cool project. But
let me switch gears on you, Todd, just because we're in the interest of time. By the way, if you're watching this live, we're going to go a little bit late, and that's okay. If you're watching this pre-recorded, no, this is going to go a little longer than an hour. We got like 50 or 30 questions here. Some of them are fabulous, and I have my 10 that I wrote down already too. So, guys, buckle up. We got a few more minutes. I want to ask Eric and Todd a few kind of builder perspective of Extreme Panel. You got to close your ears here. From a builder's perspective, what separates Extreme Panel from other SIPs builders that are out there?
go ahead, Eric. I'll follow up.
I think the family atmosphere that they do care, and they can give us what we need when it's needed, and they can hold our hand when it's needed, but they can also push us, and get us to do that stuff and get out of the box. And I think doing that along with the quality of the product that they have has been huge in building what we do.
I want to key on that right there. He said quality of product, and I heard him earlier say he had worked with another manufacturer. He was a little disgruntled, frankly, on the quality, made the switch to Extreme Panel Technologies. We often just call them EPT. And since going to EPT, he's had fabulous results. I have to be honest, I have built one SIPS house. I didn't have a great experience. It was a local Texas fabricator that went out of business not too long after, and I know why they went out of business, because the quality was not great. I felt like several things that they promised didn't come true in the job site. And on the other hand, when Extreme Panel came to me and said, hey, we want to sponsor the build show, we're interested in working with you, I had to do my own research, because I was like, I don't know about this. I've made some videos about how SIPs can be awesome, but also can be not awesome, depending on the manufacturer. And so I'm proud to say, after knowing these guys for a couple years now, they really live up to the promise. And as I mentioned earlier, these two guys in the end are builders that are not paid by Extreme Panel. Quite the opposite. They're paying for their clients and sending a big check for the panels to Extreme Panel. And yet you can see they've got a 20-year history. There's a reason for that. Do you want to answer that?
I would
that
also
question
say
as well?
completeness of package. I've had the opportunity
That's a great
to
one.
put panels up from other manufacturers as well. I'm known as a SIP builder, so sometimes homeowners get themselves in a little bit over their head or
Over
whatever.
their skis, as they say.
Yeah, in front of it, whatever. And they have called me and said, "Hey, could you come put this up?" And I've done that, and have just been really surprised at what wasn't included in that package. But when I go to my panel package from Extreme Panel, I know everything's there. If I have an employee that says, "Hey, we're missing," I say, "Look again," because it's there. You just haven't found it yet.
Yeah.
And I can guarantee you, it always is found. It's there. We have all the SIP seal. We have the structural screws that we need. We even down to sausage guns, the applicators that we need,
Nail guns, sausage
nail
guns,
They-
foam burners.
If we need it, it's on the job site for us, and that saves me from running to the store to go get it. That saves my crew from cutting lumber that is detailed inside the panel. The completeness of package is huge. I too want to say to the family though, I was building in the western South Dakota, and the first time I went to a builder summit at Extreme Panel, when I drove back from Extreme Panel from that summit, that was my sense. Like, I was a part of something bigger than just me in little Podunk, Hot Springs, South Dakota. I was a part of the SIP family, the Extreme Panel family. So,
Here's a more general question that I've seen in the chat from several different people, and I'm gonna ask you a kind of a part A, part two. Compared to stick framing, from a builder's perspective, compare Extreme Panel to stick framing on speed and cost.
okay.
It's more of a general question.
Yep.
But
So-
answer it as specifically or generally as you want.
I think we'll start with speed, because that ties into the second part of the question. So, I found that when I'm framing, I'm saving 50 to 60% of my framing cost, the labor cost. I'm also using a smaller crew than I used to use with stick building. It's harder to find guys nowadays, and that has been a blessing for me. We run a 3-man crew, and now we're running 2 crews, 3 guys on one house and 3 guys on the other.
Wow.
So myself and 2 other guys. And with a piece of equipment, with a telehandler or a boom lift, you can set a lot of panels very quickly.
Yeah, I heard you guys say, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I
No, you're
heard
fine.
both of y'all say things like, we erected that house in 6 days. We were fully done in 11 days for this, EMS building or whatever these big buildings are. So
Yeah.
for sure there's a cost to speed, and you're going to see a higher cost on panels if you just compare your lumber takeoff cost and an extreme panel cost, right?
Yeah.
But where I'm hearing you say huge differences, I think you estimated 50%. I might say it might even be higher than that.
Yeah.
Labor savings.
I think I would want to be conservative, but I would agree. And it's overall cost in the building. I build custom homes, and I've had personal experiences with quoting, pre-pricing custom homes and competing against a stick-built custom home builder, a reputable stick-built custom home builder. And the cost was a wash. It was the exact same cost. Now, the added value that homeowner got from the panel house, not only in just the structure of the house, how resilient it is, how resilient it is to fire, to hail, to wind, to all of those factors that we all are concerned about, but also in energy efficiency, what it's going to cost for that homeowner to live in that house from now until they sell it, or from now until they give it to their kids, probably.
Right.
Pass it on, because it's a heritage home. It's not something you sell in a couple days.
And to your point too, the fact that you just did a house not too long ago that was a 0.2 ACH 50, another one was actually maybe lower than that. I think what's fascinating about this system is that high performance, that really airtight, is built in. And if I'm in the middle of America with a stick built house, I'm going to probably assume I'm barely going to meet, or maybe not even meet code when it comes to an airtightness perspective. I see lots of houses out there that are stick framed that are 3, 4, 5, 6 ACH 50 type houses. And I'm hearing you guys all day long building houses that are under 1 ACH 50.
And just to kind of piggyback off that you have to compare for cost too. So I was comparing against a stick builder when I was doing my comparison earlier. That stick builder had no idea about airtightness, had no concern about quality of insulation. They were just putting in more BTUs in the furnace to make up for it. If I'm comparing my SIP structure to a builder who is building a stick wall but is trying to air seal it, is trying to eliminate thermal bridging, is trying to consider all of the things that need to be considered in an efficient home, I'm going to be way less.
Yeah, there's a lot to it.
Way less.
Yeah.
It's one step. You set the panel,
Yep.
you're done.
Yeah.
And where
that's right.
Todd and I both live, I mean, he's in South Dakota, I'm in Missouri. There's no statewide code pushing us to meet the energy code or any of that. We're doing it on our own without being forced to do it or pushed to do it.
Sure.
Where, a lot of people are trying to get to that step where they're required to do it, and we're doing it without any effort.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Most houses in America, even though it's been in the code since 2012 that every house is supposed to have a blower door test, most houses in America are not required. In my city of Austin jurisdiction, we've had to do it's only since 2018 maybe, submit a blower door score, and I have to make a 5 ACH 50. So it's like the lowest bar that you could step over without any big deal at all. You can build a not very good house and get a 5, right?
I basically had to go buy my own blower door to test my own homes because I can't hire somebody to come to where I'm at to test them.
Yeah, because you're building in the middle of nowhere a lot of times.
Yeah, and just in western South Dakota, which there just isn't anybody that cares out there that's doing it.
We're slightly short on time. I'm going to consolidate like 5 questions. By the way, thank you if you wrote a question. James Franks, Tom Moore, Robert Perez, Ralph Tiemann. You guys have had fabulous questions. I'm going to summarize like 6 of them, and I'm going to answer. Perry, hopefully, is not nervous for me to answer. One question I've gotten from several of you is, what do I do about my WRB? What do I do on the outside of the house? You know, I'm a nerd on this. Someone even said, hey, how come they don't use Huber's zip system on there? Let me explain that from my perspective after getting to know these guys for a while, having done a SIPS house. First off, when we put this bottom plate down, let's pretend like this is a tall panel. The bottom plate is set on the foundation that's treated just like any normal bottom plate where you're going to have some sill seal underneath. So I would do the Steve Basic detail where you put a bead of, let's say, Sashco, Lexel, or acoustic sealant, put your sill sealer down, put another bead on top, and then bolt down your bottom plate. Someone asked about bolting them down. So this is pressure treated 2x6, let's say, because this is essentially a 2x6 wall. That's bolted down. And then this panel, if you can picture this 2x6 not being here, this panel just flops down on top of that 2x6. And then we're going to screw in on the sides here. Before we flop it down, though, we're going to put a bead of SIPS sealant. Am I saying the right name? SIPS seal. It's basically like a super caulking. Think of like the difference between a fluid applied and like big stretch, right? A relatively viscous that they're putting a full bead on both sides of this, dropping the panel onto. It's providing that belt, and we're gonna put suspenders on the building, right? We really like that. So then once this panel is set, when the roof goes on, there's another bead of SIP seal on there. If 2 panels come in, there's SIP seal on there. It is a little dependent on Todd and Eric and their crews doing a good job during construction. But if they do a good job and he brings that blower door out, forget the house wrap, forget the zip. You should be able to blower door test this once I put my windows in and just have bare OSB. Let's say it's a dry week, you have no issues of putting anything on. You don't need anything on the outside for air tightness. The SIPS panel and the way it's built and the way it's installed is airtight to begin with. Did I say anything that's an outright lie?
Nope.
So far you're
Perfect.
tracking with me. So the reason why, well, there's multiple reasons. They don't use Huber zip system because for one, Huber won't sell them 8-foot by 24-foot panels, right? Because that's where their system is really awesome, is that they've got these giant sheets of OSB. I can fly in this huge panel, and they've got these huge sheets of OSB that are structurally sound. So Huber zip, not an option. However, most of the jobs, frankly, just have standard white house wrap out there. I don't say their name because they're not a Build Show sponsor. There's a bigger story there, but staple it on, and all we're using is a good raincoat. That's all we care about is the raincoat. That house wrap, whatever brand or type, stapled on, whatever, it's really just a raincoat on the outside of the building to keep this dry. Now, we still want to use our best practices. I would still like to see a rain screen. I'd still like to see an air gap. All that stuff is still in play, but we don't necessarily need that for air tightness. Now, if you want to go a step beyond, which I would do, and I like a step beyond, again, I like to wear a belt, I like to wear suspenders, and I like elastic pants at the same time, you could go the next step and even use a fluid applied. Do the Prosco R-Guard system. Do the PolyGuard Blue Barrier system on the outside. And now we've got an even more bomber water barrier. It's going to add some extra layer of air tightness. It's good to have layer upon layer.
Vapor permeable.
It's got to be vapor permeable, that's right. The other option you could do, like I did on my last SIPS house, is I did a vapor permeable peel and stick. I used a product from Dorkin called Delta Vent SA. That works great too. There's lots of others. Obdyke has one that's vapor permeable. There's lots of good options out there. So to your questions, whoever asked about all those, there's lots of options. But in the end, if you really did it right and you did a blower door test on this house at this stage before that house wrap was really on, although you really couldn't set the windows without a house wrap, I probably shouldn't say that. You don't need that house wrap to be an airtight house wrap. Now, it's great to have that, Do I like peel and sticks and fluid applied? Yes, very much, because it provides that extra layer of protection upon protection, but you don't need it because the system's kind of built in. That was my little house wrap rant. How did I do?
Perfect.
Pretty on.
You're right on.
Let's answer a couple more questions because these guys had fabulous questions. I know we're late, y'all, but we've got time till our flight is going out, so we've got a few more minutes. Let's see which one of these multiple great questions should I answer? What's the lead time?
Typical
on a
lead
system?
time. So this time of the year, we're up in Minnesota, right? So we have different manufacturing capabilities with the change of season. Right now, you could order panels and we could probably have them on site in 4 weeks. Our normal lead time as the year progresses is probably 6 to 8, maybe up to 10 weeks, depending on the job.
Yeah.
It just depends on what it is. There are people that call and need a garage. We can have it out in 2 to 3 weeks sometimes.
Right.
So it all just depends on that level that's needed.
I'm going to add a question to that and say, when should people contact you about jobs? At schematic design or more like when things are really far down the road?
So we like to be involved in schematic because sometimes we need to change things. If they're looking at our whole system, we have bearing points inside that we have to deal with. Or it's not that we have outside bearing, just like a truss roof.
Right.
We have to deal with those internal bearing points. That really is about it. But if you're looking at our system, we would like to be involved as soon as possible.
So when you've got a schematic design, is a great time to reach out.
Yep.
And of course, when you're a builder, where like these guys, you've got a person you talk to all the time. I heard you mention you talked to Josh was your rep, right? So you're probably talking to Josh how often?
Oh, at least once a week. When we're hitting it hard, lots of projects going on at least once a week.
So there you go.
But
so you're talking to Josh at Extreme Panel all the time.
yeah,
And that's the benefit
And as
of
much
being
as I
an Extreme
need to,
Panel
I can text him. I can call him. Whatever I need to. I'm getting the feedback I need. If he is busy and needs to, he'll pass it on to somebody else that I know, Adam or even Perry at times has called me back and taken care of it. But there's always somebody that can answer questions for me. Panel designing for panels can really save for money in the overall cost of construction because panel optimization is key.
We're going through it right now on attainable housing. We're literally making sure that the roof planes are, a 16-foot dimension, a 20-foot dimension, or a 24-foot dimension. We're trying not to make any waste at all. So those little things can add up in a roof system big time.
Yep.
And that always makes a difference. And we have certain wall heights that make sense, 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot, 16, 20, 24. So it's just simple things, but it all comes to keeping the cost down.
And not just the sales guys. I mean, the project coordinators, the drafters. I mean,
Correct.
we talk to all of them regularly. I mean, they have questions. They call, us direct, or we can call them direct to get things, figured out. And that's, part of that, family thing that I feel as well. I mean, when we go up to the plant and do their summits and stuff, I mean, we meet all those people, and it's, you get to where you're kind of vested with all of them and know,
That's awesome.
how that all works. And that's been amazing to be able to know, who's drawing this project, because I can call them when I have a question, or, that makes, on the job site when you don't understand something, well, who do I call? Well, not the salesperson that didn't draw it sometimes is not the help.
Right. How about SIPs and seismic? Is there
We are-
is there compatibility for
We are
seismic
tested.
as well?
We're tested for all. Yep. We there are things that we have to do. The SIP seal is actually different,
Oh, really?
right? So we use a different, more of an acoustic sealant.
Okay.
So we have some slip, right?
Oh, interesting.
So we have adhesive sealant and we have more of a joint sealant. So that's one thing that'll change. We have to use nails in a seismic zone. So all those things, we have all that data.
Love it.
It's really great.
This is a hard question to answer, and you might want to defer on this, but maybe you could give some general guidelines. I'm going to summarize. 2 or 3 people had this question. Can you give any general design guidance or advice for engineers or architects that want to design a house that works really well for SIPs? Actually, all 3 of you could answer this.
Well, just so
summarize.
we have on our website, there are design guides.
Oh,
SIPA has
okay,
the
great.
Structural Insulated Panel Association has done design guides for every aspect, from the architects to the builders to the HVAC people.
And that's
the
on your
wiring.
website.
Oh, on our website, and they're all downloadable documents. It's
Fascinating.
wonderful. There's
There you
great
go.
information and all
Perfect.
that. And I mean, those things everyone needs to know. We'll guide you however we can. Everyone's asking about wiring. How do I wire this house? The electrician's going to come in and charge me 3 times, and that's not the case, is it?
No, it's
You
not.
don't need to worry. All they need is a 10 to 15 minute conversation, a little bit of guidance, and typically we can help them through all of that.
So good. So good. I think we hit most of the big questions. I'm going to apologize to a few of you, like James, I wasn't able to get to your question, or Don, I missed yours. But guys, really appreciate you hanging along for me. Let's end with this slide right here that you should see on the screen. Go to extremepanel.com/extreme-builders to submit your information if you're a builder watching this. If you want to join the ranks of Todd and Eric, who have really committed, between these guys, they got 4 decades of experience with Extreme Panel, and I just realized Perry's been with Extreme Panel for 25 years. This is a great company. We've got longevity. We've got built-in performance with their system, and I want to really harp on this again, that joining them as a builder means you're really joining a family of other builders that are going to help you, of a fantastic manufacturer that's going to send you business, and you're committing to sending them business. This is a really big win-win for both builders and Extreme Panel. So head over there, drop your information in there, and someone from Extreme Panel, they got great people there, will contact you, give you all the necessary information, help you with those specific questions. There was a bunch of questions we didn't get to. Someone in Extreme Panel would love to answer those. Don't hesitate to reach out, guys. Use that link. Let's Build Better Together is their closing slide. I love it. That is the goal of the Build Show. You've seen us use that hashtag Know Better, Build Better. That's why I love Extreme Panel as a partner. They're really about educating people on, hey, this system is incredibly good performance. Build it with the system, and you've got this really guaranteed performance. So jump on there, have a call with them, and consider committing your building company to being an extreme builder. I miss anything, Perry? You want to close with anything?
I can't do
I
any
nailed
better
it?
than that. You nailed it.
All
Good
right,
job.
we got a plane to catch.
Yes.
Guys, thanks for joining me. If you are watching this later and want to watch live so you can ask questions, there'll be a link somewhere below to sign up for our newsletter. We send a newsletter twice a week. I don't know if you realize over on the buildshow.com, but we publish about 16 videos a week, plus some webinars. This will, if you're watching this live, this will be published in about a week or so to our website, so you can send this to other people, to your designers, to your builder buddies, whomever. So sign up for that, and that is how these people that watched it live knew about this live event. Also, don't forget, if you want to see these guys live or me live, Build Show Live in October, Dallas, Texas. Sign up. Extreme Panel is going to be there. They've got a great location, just like they were last year, where they're right by the stage. And you can meet these guys and all their colleagues in person. With that being said, follow us on Facebook or Instagram. Otherwise, we'll see you next time on the Build Show.